a lot of surgery. You find out, got a nose job and everything. So my time with my face is done.
Listen, there's a reason Beirut is on your shirt. It's where people go for nose jobs.
And Brazil.
And Brazil too, yeah.
Yeah. I know someone, she got her lips done, but she's like so beautiful anyways, you know what I mean? Like, not that it made her not beautiful, but I just, sometimes, from time to time I look at her, I'm like, I wonder why she did that. I could ask, I guess, but it's pretty sensitive.
Well, I think it's interesting whenever you see anybody do any sort of cosmetic work that you've previously thought was already beautiful as is.
Yeah.
And then I think it comes back to whether they think they're beautiful, whether they feel like they look good, because we're our harshest critic, right? We look at ourselves the harshest. I'll look at something and I'll, it's funny, even myself, I watch these episodes all the time, and sometimes I'll pick up on something. I'm like, why does my face look like that? But somebody else will watch it and I'll be like, do you see that? And they're like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so I think it's sometimes what they see more than what we see.
Yeah. I mean, I think
you can ask though. It's
ask
just like
them.
you can't.
Well,
No. You just can't ask unprovoked. Like if they bring up, I got a nose job, then you can ask what you want.
You can't be like,
right?
getting
just
a coffee.
Hey, get a nose job. Like say something, like mention the face, and like if by chance, by luck, I guess she's like,
or if she's
I got a nose job, like, oh yes, now I can ask a question because now it's not offensive because you brought it up.
Well, how curious are you?
Very
enough.
I mean, I've known her for a long time. I just saw her too, 2 days in a row, and I'm like, I guess it just reminded me. I just saw her this week. Okay. But then I'll forget. And then I'll see her and I'm like, oh, you got a nose job. Or no, sorry, her lips. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, so far, this is being recorded, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you got to find out now, one way or another.
I didn't diss her though.
No. But like if you didn't want her to know that you're thinking about this, now she'll know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you make life choice. I mean, this could end the friendship. It's fine, I guess. I mean, I didn't say anything.
No, you just said you're curious. So
you were curious.
Yeah, in an honest, genuine way.
Yeah, because she's like so beautiful.
Yeah, you're just
still
like,
is. Yeah. Still is. Yeah.
Well, on that note, welcome to another episode of the Gents Talk series. We've got with us, and I wrote some of this down because, when I asked you to like send me the bio outside of what I had already looked up.
Yeah,
there are so many things there, and I think it speaks to how accomplished you are, but how much more you've got coming, which is really cool. But you've been a stand-up comic for years now.
Yeah, a
long time.
Yeah.
But you also won a JUNO in 2019, Comedy Album of the Year.
I did.
Which is a big thing.
Yes.
You're a co-star on a Golden Globe winning series called Ramy.
Yeah.
Which
won
is
a Golden Globe, yeah.
Incredible stuff. And you're also a cast member on CBC's Mr. D.
I was the last 2 seasons.
Which is
sick.
And then there's like 10 to 15 other things that you've accomplished, which are all incredible, but I could spend 10 more minutes just listing all these out.
Yeah, we don't want that.
But Dave Merheje.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, you thought I was a dramatic pause? No.
I was like, I forgot. I was like, yeah, that is my name.
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
How are you?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You were just doing a tour.
I did too many, I think, cities in a row that I think it burnt me out by the end of it. Yeah. That's what probably. And then a little too much socializing.
You're just tired at this point.
I think and I did like a pop-up show on Sunday, and I think midway through my set I go, I'm tired in my head. And that's
do you not like crowds? Is that
like crowds of people?
Yeah.
Like imagine I said while I'm performing, I don't like crowds of people. What kind of comedian is this?
Outside of performing, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I sometimes I do and sometimes I do. I get anxiety from it. If I'm at a place where I don't know anyone and I'm maneuvering through, I'm very I get that anxiety where I'm like, this is uncomfortable. Like I'm not fully in my body sometimes. Like if you turned around and asked me a question, I would answer weird because
you just focus on this.
Yeah, like I gotta go through, and then when I find someone I know, then I relax. Yeah.
So what was the reason behind the pop-up? Like you decided?
I did a show Saturday at the Comedy Bar Danforth, and I think on Thursday they said it's sold out, and I was surprised.
You don't think you're that funny?
Some days no, sometimes no. I don't know. People are fickle, and I was. Then people started to message me and be like, "I can't get tickets. It's sold out." Like they were surprised. They were
it's a glitch on the site.
Yeah, basically, they're basically saying when they say that I could be reading into this is that we didn't think you were gonna sell out, man.
Yeah.
So we could have waited till a day before. Hey, you sold out. I'm shocked. Why did that? Like, you know what I mean? That's what that message I feel sometimes comes off to me. So I just added I was like, oh, I'll just add a pop-up at Tall Boys. I know the owner. He's very supportive of stand-up. He has shows there already, and we just did it in the basement there of the bar.
Very cool.
But then I realized, I was like, oh, I'm tired.
So is the reason for the pop-up purely from a business perspective? Or like, I think what I'm trying to ask is, did you, as a comedian, as an entrepreneur, do you have a hard time saying no when there's an opportunity business-wise?
The pop-up didn't make me money. I think I was only like 20 people. It was a very small space, and I don't think I made money. I think I was just wanted to, some people asked for tickets, they couldn't come in.
Give some people an extra, if you want a show, like a little show for you. Yeah.
And then I get to run my material.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, you'll do 45 minutes, and then within that 45 minutes, hopefully I can get 20 minutes of new stuff. So that's what the whole kind of purpose of this whole last week was when I was in Winnipeg, or last weekend to this weekend, this past Winnipeg, Montreal, Ottawa, Kingston, Toronto, twice.
How much of your skits are on the spot improv?
Well, I like improvising.
Okay.
So I like the idea of like seeing like what I can pull from the room and the people there. I like it. I feel very comfortable in that space. I think sometimes more so than what I've written. Do you know what I mean? Like the spontaneity of it is like exciting to me. It feels organic, and it just feels, just kind of like it's. I don't rap by any means, but like when somebody freestyle raps something, it's gotta feel so great, as opposed to maybe some of the stuff you've written. If you, even in like a freestyle battle, when you see somebody improvise a line,
right off the top of their head,
the place goes crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've always been interested in that and stand up. So I have a set, so I have a beginning, middle, and end, like an idea of it. For sure, a beginning and an end. I know where it would start or end, and then in the middle, I'll play with it.
And what happens if it bombs? How do you deal with that?
I mean, at this point, my emotions are pretty tough into it. Like, it still hurts, but it doesn't hurt as it used to hurt when it first started. It's almost kind of, I guess, like dating in a sense. Like after like 40th time you're rejected, you're like, oh, I know how to take this rejection.
Sort of full circle here. You, as a comedian, you're often putting yourself at the mercy of the people sitting in front of you, right? In the sense of like, there's a level of vulnerability of, I'm gonna present something to you. Here's my craft. Here's my art.
Yeah.
How you receive it impacts you, and you've said that over the years you've, what sounds like, numbed it out a little bit. But it's still ultimately at the end of the day, you don't leave happy if you had a show that didn't do well. And then add to that, a relationship that didn't go well, and COVID, and right now you've just said you're tired. So you're kind of like, your headspace right now is sort of just in what seems like fight or flight mode.
Yeah, and that kind of, I mean, with therapy, that helps. Therapy kind of gives you the tools to kind of navigate through that. Whereas before, I would sink more, and I would I wouldn't know how to figure it out. It would just be too painful, or I would make it worse. But with therapy, you can kind of like you speak with the therapist, and they'll give you the tools, and you can just kind of work it out. It's almost like having I think I said this yesterday, having like a therapist. You punch up your mind, like a writer, when you have a script, you hire someone to punch it up. With therapy, I think they just kind of punch up the thoughts that you had, or if you can't articulate it the best way, or you can't figure it out, they'll give you those tools, and they'll give you that guidance. and it's like it's reassuring, and it just kind of readjusts, and it gets you on the right path. I think that's what I find with therapy. And it's like, probably I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and so my anxiety's higher. I don't have the I guess the strength and energy to get me out of that. So it's like, and you combine all those things.
What are you
doing?
What are you doing after this?
I think I'm gonna go lay down.
Think?
Yeah.
You're going to
lay down.
You have to, man. Just after this, rest.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
And it's with breakup, it's always tough. You know, I was in a relationship like recently where, you know, it ended, and it's never easy. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you both putting yourself out there, and it's like the process is tough, and it hurts, I think.
Yeah.
And it was something that I ended the relationship, and it, you know, it hurts too. You think sometimes it does, you know, obviously it hurts for the other person as well, but you know, you ending it hurts too, and it's just as much, you know, as much as you still like care, miss, and love them, and if you don't think you're gonna go back, you can't even say that to them, because it lets them, it doesn't help their process, and that's tough to do, I think, because, you know, it's sometimes you want to be selfish and get your emotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, was it like I want to break up with you, or like I have to break up with you from your point of view?
It was my gut. I had this like gut feeling.
So like I just had to, like,
like my body
this isn't what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, reacted in a way, and it's not that I didn't love them, or I do, but it was just my body was, and I didn't know, and I tried. I genuinely tried. It wasn't like a thing where I was like, I went back twice. I tried my best.
But you communicated through that.
Yeah,
like you communicated.
Oh
that,
yeah,
like, this is a process you're working through, and that kind of thing.
And I told them I didn't want to. It sounds wild when you go, I don't want to leave because you're leaving. They're like, well, I don't really believe you, but it was, there was a lot of care. Still, there's like a lot of care, but it was like I didn't.
Which makes it so much harder. Then if it's, yo, you did something, I'm off, I'm leaving, I can't stand you, I'm leaving. So now it's just like, something's just not.
Yeah, there wasn't like a thing, you know, like
just
it was
like,
a
this
drastic
is just not
thing.
what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's sucks.
Yeah.
And it like,
which is funny, because if you're on the receiving end, or if you're in a scenario where it is drastic, you think it's the worst thing in the world, but then in time you realize that was the best way it could have happened. Not that it always has to be so negative, but sometimes, I mean, we've all been through that, where we've had a relationship end in a very drastic and dramatic way.
Yeah.
And you realize sometimes that...
Yeah, you needed that for that to end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That relationship specifically had to end that way. Otherwise, it would have been a vicious cycle.
It's like, I hate that happened, but good thing, because now I'm done. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the difference, the two differences of it.
And I didn't want it to be done.
No.
But I never... You know, I felt it today. There's some days I'm fine, and there's other days, like today, I felt somber about it, or you know, and I never wanted to hurt the person at all by any means. It wasn't long by any means, but there was, I had strong feelings towards them, and cared for them immensely, and, you know, loved them a lot. But it just, I don't know, and it. Yeah, it's hard to, I guess, you know, on their end, I don't know. It's probably hard to understand and be like, well, we could work through it and stuff. And I just couldn't. Yeah. And they're not going to take that as like, well, you didn't actually mean you cared or loved me then, because you the end result is you left. But it does suck, because you know, your mind for a while will play tricks. Not play tricks. It'll be like, did you do the right decision? Could you have stayed? Could you have tried to work it out?
So that brings me to my next point. You do a lot of, like, you've done a lot of recent videos on self-talk. You said you read a book around self-talk. Like, you've put an emphasis on how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of those questions from a relationship are a byproduct of self-talk. We talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else.
Yeah.
How, firstly, maybe talk us through that journey of realizing the importance of self-talk and how that's changed the way you approach things in life.
That book was through the therapist, and I
What was the name of the book?
I have it on my phone. It's like rating yourself. I have it. I could. I don't know. I always keep forgetting it, and then someone will ask me, and I send them the book, and I have the picture in front of me. I forget right away. It's like very.
Well, he'll look it up while you do that.
Going.
But yeah,
it was. I probably, like, for years and years I spoke to myself badly, and I think I probably brought it up in therapy with the therapist, and then she recommended the book, and as I was reading it, I was like, whoa. I was like, wow, I really talked to myself badly. And then the more pages I went through and the deeper I got into the book, I was like, this was so detrimental and not helpful. Like, and the more I read it, the more I had an understanding of how I was treating myself. And I did not want to ever do that again.
And
I did not want to operate that way.
So is there something that you've learned in that helps you to not go down that hole? Like, if someone was in a position where they talk to themselves quite negatively right now, based on your experiences, what you've learned from that book, the last several years of implementing this, what would you tell someone?
It's not reality. It's kind of like trauma based. It comes from wherever, I mean, mine was from childhood of like having buck teeth and warts on my eyes and just not really feeling myself at all. And then the outside world kind of reinforcing that by, making fun of me or something like that. And then you just held on to that. It's like I saw a clip from that Jonah Hill Netflix therapy thing, and it was I can't remember fully what it was, but when they were talking about it, I was like, oh, that's what I was doing. It's like talking to you look at yourself as that kid that was 14 when I was in high school, and I had the warts and I had the overbite and buck teeth and curly hair. I was like, that's the person all this stuff is coming from, not the person who grew up. Mm-hmm. That's what would happen. So that's what I would tell somebody. I was just speaking from that hurt and that pain, not from how I am now and how I grew up and I got older. Like, you know what I mean? I'm speaking still from that person who thought he was so ugly or not cared for, or thought that humor had to be the way to get people's attention or to get people to like them.
Did you gravitate towards comedy for that reason?
Yeah, no, I think I always wanted to entertain. I didn't necessarily stand up. I remember being super young and making fun of my aunt in front of my mom, and my mom started laughing. I was like, yo, that was cool.
I got something.
I remember being cool. I mean, it's not cool to shit on someone.
Especially when they're related to you.
But I remember at my grandmother's house, I was just they were all in the kitchen and I was in between them, and I did like a little, I don't even know what it was, and I just saw how my mom reacted, and I was happy it made her, and she smiled, and I was like, that's a cool feeling. And I always loved like talk shows like Letterman. I always loved award shows like the MTV Awards. I used to love Soul Train, like just stuff like that. I was always enamored by entertainment, so I wanted to entertain. And I think as I got older, it probably became also that too, where I was like, oh, I can turn whatever this aggression is or anger into humor and stuff. So I think it was a mix. It wasn't solely like people were making fun of me and I was like, I'm gonna be a comedian and show. It was like something I've always wanted to do. I think my mom would be like, oh, I feel you were born with that. But moms will say that, so you don't really know if it's real. But it's like something I never really had to think about. I was like, oh, I want to entertain. Like, it just was like, it was like really, really in my mind. It wasn't a thing that I ever had to be like, should I do it? I was like, yeah, I just gotta, how do I do it? And I was just waiting for my age,
Different time. Trying to come up as a comedian.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There wasn't a TikTok, there wasn't an Instagram.
No.
There might have been a Facebook, but not even then.
The grind was completely different. It's still a grind now, but it's a completely different grind.
It's completely like, I can only imagine even before I started what it was like. I mean, we had the Now here, because I started in Toronto, and then Now magazine would have like listings of shows. I remember even going across to Michigan to do like free shows, like open mics, and I would have to use MapQuest. So I'd have to put the sheet on the seat, and I'd have to drive looking like this, and I was like, great. I'm like left. It was Now it's like the phone and
Yeah, like
back.
I know MapQuest, but of it, but I never had to use it 'cause I wasn't driving. By the time I was driving, it was always.
It's
I started
so
driving
bad.
late though. I started driving late though, so
It's so
I remember
bad,
I used
but
to have to print it out for my dad to be able to get to places.
you just have to wait. You have to sit there as the printer goes. You're like, oh, God, I'm gonna be late.
And no clue what traffic is like either.
No, you're just thrown into the wilderness, or just you're thrown into the world where you're like, oh man, there's a snowstorm. Like you knew nothing, dude. You couldn't.
it's crazy how not that long ago that was though.
Yeah, that was
Long?
around for me. It was around Dipset, Hema, like Cameron. Yeah, that was out, and College Dropout was out.
Nice. I like that. Like the years. People like record time different ways, and by the years, like okay, what songs is popping? Right?
I remember Hema was like,
Yeah.
it went off, and it was Old Boy. Oh boy, that was
yeah.
Like Cameron?
That was huge.
Yeah.
Is it
Ding
Cameron?
Dash
Yeah,
in the
see, I have
videos
no idea
came
what
on,
year that is, but I know that exact time.
Yeah.
It would. Yeah, I remember it vividly because I'd watch the videos and then I would go
Hema,
over.
yeah.
I'd be in the living room and it was on, and I'd go over to do comedy in Michigan.
So you started off as a comedian, but now you're doing a lot of acting.
Yeah.
And when we talked briefly before this, you talked about how acting was a big passion of yours.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was, again, it goes down to the entertaining. I was like, I always wanted to entertain, and I would watch actors, and I was like, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and like the Denzels, the Brad Pitts, the Leonardo DiCaprios. It was just like, I wanted to get to, I always thought, I was like, I'll do stand up. I'll find my voice. And, I had this dream of like someone will just put me in something. Like I didn't really think it through. And then as I got into it, it was always the goal not the end, but I was like, that's what I'm eventually going to work towards, is getting on a TV show or in a movie. It's like, if I can just go in that direction.
Got it.
Oh, you're there.
It's pretty surreal.
How does it feel?
Very grateful and blessed for it. But yeah, extremely blessed for it because, you start with a lot of people. You don't know who's going to stick around, and even us, we sometimes look at each other and we're like, man, we stuck around.
Yeah.
A lot of people quit. It's like, it's very hard on your body and your mental, because you kind of like also start losing people. Like you just start hanging around with entertainers. You have real friends at the beginning, and then we call them civilians for some reason. So,
What are you, in the army?
yeah, my boy's like, yo, I hung out with a civilian, and I knew exactly what he meant. I go, oh, you hung out with a non-entertainer. Yeah. How does that feel, right? So it's, and then you just, it's dope just to be still doing it more so than the accomplishment. I was like, oh, we're still at it. We didn't let it break us yet, kind of thing.
And do you see this going long term career wise? Like do you see yourself ever transitioning out of comedy completely and focusing purely on acting?
That's a good question, because sometimes I do. I love stand up so much, and I think I said that to someone. They're like, "Yeah, that's insane," because of how much I loved it and do it every day if I can. I don't know. I don't.
I mean, there's a world that exists where you can still do both. There's a lot of comedians that are actors and vice versa.
Which I do want to do both, but I can see maybe like if I just started to do a bunch of movies or TV that I can see myself just like holding off a bit, doing stand up and coming and finding the time for it. But if I was able to shoot a movie every year, that'd be so sick.
A lot of comedians who make the transition to film tend to transition towards comedic films. Do you see yourself doing comedy films, or do you want to sort of increase your repertoire of skills, like drama?
I got to film or shoot a film last year, and it was a drama, but I never thought, I like drama a lot. I probably like drama now a little bit more than comedy. Like I'll watch there's the movie Fences, and there's a scene with Denzel and his kid, and the kid goes, I think he goes, "Do you love me?" And then Denzel's like, "Who said I gotta love you?" And he just goes into this whole monologue, and it's so cool. I mean, it's sad, but it was just like, the back and forth. I watch Peaky Blinders, and it's
a great show.
That scene with Tom Hardy and Thomas Shelby, where his kid gets kidnapped, and then he's like, and then Tom Hardy's just telling his characters being like, "You're being a hypocrite." He goes, "Don't stand here. You know how many people have you killed?" And he goes on, and he goes, "So stand here like an honorable man."
Yeah, Tom Hardy kills that role. That was a great role for him. So
good. So that stuff I like a little bit more now, but I mean, the first thing I did was a drama, which I didn't think I would, maybe ideally I thought I would do. Hopefully I was like, man, it would be cool to do a comedy, but I got to do a drama the first time I've done a movie, and that was, I loved it.
You're ultimately an entrepreneur. So there are days where like you're very much in that world where if you don't work, you don't get paid. If you don't get up and do something, like there's no 9 to 5, there's no regular paycheck. I don't know what benefits are like, but they're probably non-existent.
Still, it's not crazy. I mean, it's good benefits, I guess.
But the point is like it's very much what you put in is what you get out. But there are definitely days where you don't feel like putting anything in. What are those days like, and how do you get out of them?
That's a good question too. There are some days, I don't really like. I can't really put in the work. Sometimes just burnt out, tired, and I feel like I messed up for sure. I feel like I'm slacking those, and then I hopefully can muster the energy to bounce back. But I do feel it. Like, it's hard because you are an entrepreneur every day. Like, I have agents and managers and stuff, but at the end of the day, you are going to push for you more than anyone, even if they're pushing for you and trying to get you work. It's like you have to keep moving, and you have to keep moving the needle. You have to keep creating the buzz, and you have to just keep moving forward. So it's a constant thing on my head. It's like I never rest. You're always thinking about it. I am, per se, always thinking about, when can I put this out? What can I do here? So it's like it never rests kind of thing. But there are days where I slip up. There's days I probably could have like read more. Probably days I could have went to the gym, or but I was on TikTok for 4 hours just looking at videos. So
it's just so distracting.
So distracting.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's too distracting. It's too good.
Yeah,
it's too good.
They really mastered it.
It's just too good. Like if I have a little bit of time, I'm like I cannot touch my phone because I know. Like we were talking, like 3 minutes turns into 5 minutes so quickly, man. It's like if I'm on a strict schedule, I'm like, I'm gonna be late. I'm not touching my phone. Like I just can't. I can't even pick it up for anything because I know.
So and then I could have been writing a script. Yeah, it happens. I mean, I try not to be so hard on myself and be like, you messed up and make it like somber. I go, okay, you had 2 bad days or you didn't get work done. Let's try to recoup.
Okay, and once you sort of are in that stage and you're in that stage, because you strike me as someone who knows when they're not putting in the work.
Yeah.
Are there techniques? Are there things that you specifically do? Some people journal, some people will, because that one day can turn into 2 days, can turn into a streak.
I don't journal. A lot of people journal these days. It's a thing I didn't know. Or maybe they were doing it and I was not listening. But I was like, a lot of people, even people I didn't even expect would be like, have you tried journaling? I go, what's happening? Yeah. It's a cool party I didn't get invited to. I guess I don't journal, but it's more of
how do you get your thoughts out?
Like, to write and stuff?
Well, no, in general, because like in those moments, obviously there's something that you're going to do to pull yourself out of that rabbit hole you've just gone into, right? Where it's like you wake up, you're not feeling yourself, I don't feel like working. And then one day turns to 2 days, turns to 7 days, and you're trying to sort of get back into the rhythm, right? Whether it's all
in here, I think. I run it back so much. I don't really... my therapist too, she would always be like, yo, you should write it down. I was like, it's all here. So I kind of like...
But it works for you.
It works for me where I'm like, okay, then maybe Tuesday you'll get back to that and stuff like that. Okay, post this here. Like I do it in my head. Like I don't write it down. Like something clicks in my head where I'm like, because I don't want to lose and I want to see the end goal. That's like... That burns at me more than anything. So I can't let myself slip up because I do feel I'm not done. So that's the thing that gets me out if I kind of fall down.
It's like the laser focus. Just
yeah, there's like the end goal. I'm not finished. I'm not the last page isn't written. Like I even if I achieve something, I'm like it's not done for me.
Yeah.
So then that pushes me more than anything. Even if I'm having like 4 bad days, I'm like I'm not going anywhere. I don't want another job, and getting older now. Like I don't really, what am I gonna do? Yeah. I'm go back to. I went to school, but I mean like get a job in the field that I graduated from that I never really wanted to do, kind of thing. So
what did you study?
Marketing.
Okay.
Me too, man. Me too, man.
So why didn't you want to pursue that? Well, I guess the answer is obvious, but when you say you didn't want to do it, but it seems like you did it, was that a familial pressure?
My mom was like, she's like, you can do what you want, but can you please get me an education? And I went and got her education for both of us. I mean, but it is very helpful. It taught me structure, and it taught me planning. Yeah. It got me in a routine and stuff. So it is very, it is important to go to school. I don't want it to be like, I think that's like a narrative too, where it's like, man, you don't need to go to, especially if a rapper raps about it too. They're like, I dropped out of school. I still see millions, and people are like, I don't need school. It's like, yeah, but you're not Drake.
Yeah, there's that.
He's really good at rapping. Like you can't just take that, lyric so I do think it was important. I just really love my mom, and I wanted to make her happy. And then I went and I had good, I met good friends there that I have,
Yeah, a lot of people say you meet like your lifelong friends in college.
Yeah, it's like
my buddies met in college too. I'm like, yeah, these my boys for like life.
Yeah, that's the first time I fell in love with a girl.
Okay,
was in college, so there was like a lot of things that I great memories and stuff. And I went to St. Clair College in Windsor, Ontario, and before the pandemic, a classmate of mine was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to submit you for Alumni Distinct Award or something," and I'm like, "What?" But I didn't use my diploma, and he's like, "It doesn't matter. We're gonna put acting and comedy." I go, "Sure, man." And then the VP called me later, and he I don't know if it was a month later, and he goes, "Man, you're in." I was like, "Oh, wicked!" And then COVID hit, so we couldn't have the ceremony, but they did it online, and yeah, it was like an Alumni Distinct, and all our pictures are in the hallway. Right. And then my boy who I went to school with, he works at the college now, and he was sitting across from it and took a picture on his phone and sent it to me. He's like, "Bro, I'm looking right at you." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sick." The same hallways that you walk through and I didn't even expect that at all. And then they did another one where it was a premiere of All Ontario or something like that. And then they gave you like a plaque, and it was signed by Doug Ford. And I was like, well, I can't use this. I was like, man, old Dougie, this is shit, man. I was like, I can't even tell anyone about it. I'm going to get into a political argument. Like, I have to hide it behind the couch. Mom can't bring it out. I'm like, don't bring it out. Doug signed the bottom of it. We're fucked.
No matter what, it's going to start an argument.
It is, yeah.
No matter what.
Doug's somewhere in Mississauga, like, cleaning up snow. You know what
I mean? The relationship with your mom, so close one.
Yeah.
Did you have a good relationship with your dad?
I mean, both are. I mean, my dad is like, yeah, he doesn't really say. He says I love you more now, but I mean, we just knew. I don't know if it was like an Arab thing. You're just like, my dad loves me, man. He doesn't have to really say it. Yeah, I mean, he's still here. It was like bare minimum. And then he'd be like, he would fix my teeth. He'd give me money. So in my head, I was like, oh, this is currency, I guess. But he always, he was always there for us. He basically worked and worked and worked so that we can, that I can do this, that I can go play. You know what I'm saying? He helped me get through college. I wouldn't be doing this if he didn't give me the luxury and the comfort to have a dream. He came from Lebanon and built a family and his job, and he worked really hard in a factory for Ford Motor Company, and retired, and allowed us to do this. So my mom, it's a good relationship, but it's like, she's a germaphobe, extreme hypochondriac, OCD. So some of the stuff and the anxieties that I got was from her. And then you get older, and then you try to unpack, and you kind of not hold a resentment, but you never you know what I mean, there's an anger there, which, you know, it's not her fault or my fault. It's just like two traumas where I don't know how to articulate it to her that I'm not mad at her. I'm not, you know, I love you, but it's like some of the things that I had experienced, it's not your fault because you didn't have the help or the therapy for it. So it's like you're passing it to us.
You're doing the best that you could have done in that situation.
Yeah.
It affected me, but like it's
still, I'm working through it, so I will have some kind of frustration, anger, or resentment and stuff, and mixed in with love and care. But they don't, you know, sometimes Arab parents don't understand that because to them they're like, hey, but I raised you, you didn't die. So they're like, it could be all immigrant parents. I don't know. They're like, hey, that's not, you know, we're good.
And it's just, I feel like it is like the older generation. I think that's what we're here for. It's like our generation, we want to stop that. And like, so like going forward and start telling people, you know, like, so it's good to, as much as you know it, it's still good to fucking hear it.
Yeah, my sister started telling my mom about boundaries, and I was like, well, I mean, you're going to a war. My mom's like, what? Boundaries? Yeah. What are you talking about?
She's not trying to hear that.
No.
Or triggering?
Yeah.
Mom, you're triggering me. My mom would be like, I don't even know what that means, but I'm like, you know, so it's...
I think they just wanted, I think their primary focus, like that generation's focus was survival.
Yeah.
Getting their families somewhere where they can give them a fighting shot at something.
Yes.
The rest, all of these other things that we complain about to them are like luxuries that they're like, I don't even have the space in my brain to compute this nonsense that you're concerned about when all I needed to make sure was that I can go to work and put food on the table for you. That was my day to day. And I think that part, at least as I get older, and it's like for a lot of people it's the same thing. They're realizing that that's what their parents, that was the lens their parents operated from.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you butt heads so many times growing up, but in reality, they were doing it from that perspective. And as you get older, you start to appreciate the sacrifices that were made to get to this point, just to, like you said, give you a chance to go out and have fun.
Yeah, and you know, my dad too, it's funny, he'll be anxiety. He always goes, anxiety. He looks at you like you're crazy. He goes, for what? He always says, for what? I go, I don't have a list, but there's a lot. Like he doesn't. And my sister suffers from it a lot growing up and still now. And he'd have to drive her to the hospital because she'd have these panic attacks. And he just, like, at some point, it was so many times that he'd fall asleep in the waiting room, and we'd show up, and, you know, we'd wake him up. He goes, we're like, where's your daughter? He goes, I don't know. Like, he's just been driving her. But there's like this one funny, it's not, I mean, it's funny, but like he like loves her, but it kind of could come off harsh, is that he's driving her to the hospital, she's having a panic attack, and he pulls into a 7-Eleven, and she goes, what are you doing? He goes, dude, I need to put gas. Oh my God. She's having this full-blown panic, and she's like, okay, goes into the 7-Eleven, has it there. The guy or the girl working behind the counter gets a chair so she can sit. She's having this panic attack she can't stand. And my dad comes in, goes, hi, Mehdi. And the person behind the counter goes, you know her? She goes, it's my daughter, man. He goes, 20 on pump 5. Just like,
oh my God.
I'll see you in the car. And it's like, yeah, to like people who didn't grow up that way, that's like, it is harsh. Mm-hmm. It is cold. It seems like he doesn't care, but it's just like, we were raised that way.
Yeah. I'm
not saying it's the right way, but I mean, yeah, again, they came from, like, I just went to Lebanon for the first time, and to that, you know, at 42, and like seeing where they grew up, and he had to leave because of a civil war. You know, it's hard. Then you ask them when they got to Windsor, they gotta like live and build. They don't have time to, you know. And then my mom, same way. She came to Windsor when she was young. Her family was poor. I think she dropped out of high school. She ain't got that time to try to fix whatever. That we have the luxury. We got like therapy. We got healers. Now there's horse therapy. Like, it's just like, you know, we can do what you can go anywhere to get help and stuff like that.
Do you think there's generational trauma? Do you think that exists? I've heard it many times. I've been very curious about it, especially children of immigrants who come from war-torn countries, like Lebanon, for example. My parents, same thing. They left Lebanon during the Civil War, came here. Do you think generational trauma travels through the children, and then we carry that in some way?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have friends like that as well, that they carry it. For sure, that's where the trauma has come from. Even I don't even like. I go to like. Even when I started going to therapy, I was like, she was like, I'm probably gonna say things about your mom you're not gonna like. In the back of my mind, I was like, yo, you better ease up, bro. You better. I don't know what you're trying to do here. But you ain't doing that to my mom. It's still that.
Yeah.
I don't trust you, bitch. And it's yeah. Even I went to a healer, and I'm like, what am I doing? I was doing it, and I was like, still this hesitation, this resistance. Like, I don't know. And I do have trauma. For sure, my sister does. I don't know if my brothers do. Me and my sister are closer in age, but yeah, we do. Because, I don't know if we had to kneel when we got in trouble. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know. Yeah.
Like, so they, and I'm telling this story. I hadn't been to therapy yet. I was actually doing. So at one point, I had a podcast with co-host Fivos and Ben, who's an actual therapist. So it's called The Beautifully Anxious. So we did, I think 9 or 10 episodes. It was very short-lived, but I wasn't even seeing it. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. I wasn't even seeing a therapist, and I was doing this therapy podcast. And at one point, it's the 3rd episode we were recording. We're in the therapy office where the therapist, he owns the office, he co-owns it. And I'm telling them a story where it's not even me and my cousin, my sister got in trouble. My mom and his mom and grandma made us kneel while they were in the kitchen playing cards and had guests over. So, and then
I'm laughing because it's like childhood.
Yeah. And then you had to put your hands up against the wall, and your ass couldn't touch your feet. So you're doing this, and we'd be against the wall, and then, but if we saw one of us slipping, because you'd get tired, we'd be like, yo, Danny, man, you're slipping. And he's like, and he's trying to come on. And then your mom would hit you if you did go down like that, right? And I'm telling this story because I learned to channel it through humor, and they're just not laughing. This is like being recorded. And then I think it was my co-host goes, there's pain there. And I'm like, yeah, like I didn't even know. And then we finished the recording. He's like, do you want me to take that part out? I go, no, don't take it out, just leave it in. And then that's when I asked the therapist, I go, man, I should see a therapist. I think it's
I don't think it's like there's I gotta choose my words carefully here. I think they were raised that way.
Yeah, 100%.
And like my parents, when they first came here, they were, if I did something stupid, they would discipline me.
Yeah.
Right. But even now, when I look back, I can't for a single second say that I was physically abused as a child.
No, it's not like
it was like a discipline.
There's that line. Like
there
the same
is.
Thing as
yeah.
Like, we used to have like encyclopedias.
Yeah.
The same thing I think with encyclopedias, and it's just like, because I think it gets down to how angry the parent is at the time.
Yeah.
And how much how they channeled their trauma.
Like or like what the parent is really mad at. Like if you come in late and they beat like the dog shit out of you, it's like maybe like there's something else there, and like that's when it's a little different than like if you were, let's say like depending like degree of what it was, like okay, this like maybe the 15th 20th time, okay, now this situation, like now how, like opposed to just one time.
Yeah, it's like when you see a movie and they're like, dad's coming home and he's drunk.
Yeah, see that's like,
different. And then the ambulance shows up, it's like, no, we just got hit.
Yeah, that's abuse. There is a line. So it's
sorry, it wasn't like, that's why when I would tell these stories, like if you didn't grow up like that, you just looked at us like, oh, should you call someone? Like, no, why would I call someone? She just, my brother was a fuck up. My dad hit him in his ass, like with his hand. Yeah. He knew he messed up.
Well, it's not that long ago that teachers in some of these countries would discipline children with like a ruler. Like they put their hand out, they smack their hand with a ruler.
Bro, when I was like 10, my friend in the neighborhood, he did something to me, and then the dad brought him over to our house. We all went on the porch, and he slapped the fuck out of his kid. He goes, say sorry, man. And then he hit him. And we're all like, it was like Lord of the, Game of Thrones. We're like, okay. Yeah. And then and he goes, you good? I go, yeah, I'm good. So
what else are you going to say?
Midday. This is not like at night privately. The neighbors probably saw that. They're like, why is that family watching another family beat their children? It was like
it's normal.
Open season. My boy got, he did some, and then his dad found him. We were walking, and he goes, shit. He saw his dad drive up, and I'm like, and he's like, so-and-so, come here. And then he went, and all I saw was him go to say hi, and you go, pop. You saw a hand come out of the car, and it messed him up so much he went the wrong way. Like my boy started walking. I'm like, I let him. I go, yo, he needs to walk this off. That's not even the direction we were supposed to go. And this was daylight again. So and then his dad went and carried on with his day. So, and you grow up. Now I didn't think. I was like, oh, he's just disciplined. I didn't grow up like my parents hit me and abused me. I'm gonna call the police. It's just like, you know. I just you gotta be careful, I guess, because they didn't have the same experience.
Right. So you were a byproduct of that growing up, and you've obviously now gone the route of therapy.
Yeah.
When you have kids, I feel as though your approach will end up being more on the therapeutic side, like the communicative side.
Yeah, I would try to like communicate your feelings and stuff like that. I would ask my kid to not make a TikTok video about it, but I would be like, I'd be like, hey man, I would have that. I would be like, you can say whatever. You know, I have nieces, right? And you know, sometimes when I'm speaking to them on the phone, the older one, I'm like, hey, just you feel free to come and tell me anything and talk about anything.
Yeah.
Don't feel free. You don't have to hide any of it. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's just like, this is like, there's, you know, if you did, always remember there's a discussion you could have. Just remember your uncle will always be here for you if you need to talk. So it's like, I think that approach is great. And therapy would be great. Now, would I spank my kids? I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. But I think a sternness.
There would be a sternness. I'd be like, hey, you can't, you know what I mean? I pay the taxes here. Kid's going to be 5 years old.
This is a hotel?
Yeah. I'd be like, I pay. I remember my sister got a bird for one of her daughters just for a bird, maybe for Christmas. And my dad was heckling the bird. He'd be like, oh man, we have added another person to the family, huh? This one's not gonna pay any rent for sure. Like something like that. Full on giggling. I go, this guy's talking to a bird, bro.
Yeah, well, you can't fault the guy. After the type of life he's probably put in to get you and your siblings through.
Well, his sister left, and she brought everyone over.
Okay,
that's how that happened. And he probably was like, he had to be sad to leave like Lebanon. Being in Lebanon, how beautiful it is, and like I mean, how visually beautiful it is, and probably all his people were there. And he had to move to Windsor, and there's like snow. Like, I was mad for him when I was in Lebanon. Yeah. I was like,
this is what you left?
Windsor? Shit, even if they moved to Toronto, I'd be like, you moved here? Look at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, again, that just goes back to like, I don't think we fully comprehend what it takes to up your family and leave your home. Like, moving from one part of Toronto to the other part of Toronto is like a 2-month escapade of like, how am I going to do this? And
that's how I was saying to the energy. You meet someone and like, oh man, I had to move in Brooklyn. Now I got to move to Queens. And you're like, how am I going to do this? You're like, I don't know, get a rental car, a van. It's not even hard. You're not fleeing a country because of war.
Yeah, that's a totally different. Like,
yeah. It's insane. I remember my mother telling me a story where she had to drive from Beirut to Damascus, and every day she would make that drive with my uncle to try and figure out when she can get her visa to leave Lebanon, because she couldn't get it through Lebanon. She had to get it through Syria.
Jesus.
Like, it's just the insanity of the stories, and like her and walking through an airport, no English, trying to figure life out. And it's just like,
there's the no English.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't even, I don't even survive in Montreal. I can't speak French,
right?
Let alone
yeah. Like, but it's incredible when you think of how many people have those stories in Canada.
Yeah.
Right? And there's just so much of that, so many people who've come in, and I can't fault them for holding on to that trauma because that's all they know. And they almost live with it because it's almost as if they let it go, what else do they have?
Yeah.
You know? I see that a lot with Middle Eastern, like older Middle Eastern individuals, just because I could relate more to them.
Yeah.
I see that a lot with them, where they hold on to that trauma because that's what it identifies who they are to them.
Yeah. Maybe motivated them.
Yeah.
And then you let that go. What do you have, basically? Yeah, I didn't even look at it that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You recently posted a video about toxic masculinity. We're sort of very, like, we're particularly interested in that topic because there's, like, what it means to be a man today is so, like, there's so many variations of that. There's so much noise when the majority of men just in the middle want to just be a better man.
Yeah, it's. I remember speaking to a healer about, like, on the phone. I would speak to her a bunch of times, and I think I was pitching a joke to, like, a premise.
All right, listen, let me tell you something.
Yeah, she didn't know if it was a premise, but I was telling her that I think, like, men and women got used to a certain, like, stereotype of each other. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, man is supposed to take care, provide, be like like, you know, protect and all that, and not cry or whatever. And then, you know, and it's like when the girls or guys are like, oh, girls don't like nice guys, stuff like that, or it's like if the guy cries too much or he can't take care of you. I mean, it's just in us. It's been built. You know, like sometimes you can't even help it. Like, and I was telling her that, and she goes, you know, I married I think she married her college boyfriend, but she's like, I've been with this man for so long. And she goes downstairs, and he can't see her. He's watching a Demi Lovato video on TV, and he's crying. He can't see her. She's behind him, and then she goes to herself, who's going to save us? Right? Like, and it's like, that's why, you know what I mean? Like, he's crying, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, maybe subconsciously she's like, yeah, who is gonna, why is this guy crying? Not on purpose. She doesn't think he's weak, or that, you know, that she can't protect the family, but it's like, I think it's the relationship we've built that when you go now, what is the idea of what a man should be? Like, you know, I particularly think it has nothing to do with, like, strength or working out or being tough or fighting. It's more of, like, can you take care of your people? Can you, if you are in pain, can you express that? Can you be more open with yourself and people? Can you go, hey, I am weak now. I'm not doing well. Like, that to me is a safer place to be and a healthier place to be, because the other way, I don't think you're going to get it out. Especially men. I think men kill themselves a lot because I feel I'm not a man. I can't get this out. But, and then for what? Then you're dead. You didn't do any good for any, you know what I mean? For yourself. But if you were able, if there was enough comfort for, you know, men to express themselves that way, I think it should be more healthier. It's like when sometimes when I'm speaking like this, a girl will be like, yeah, you don't even really see guys talk like this. This is good. It's like, it's not good. We got to normalize.
It shouldn't be like
it shouldn't
a thing.
Be that.
Just like, regular conversation.
It's like feelings.
Have that safe space, like having,
But then you get like, and I see it with my brother. They'll watch TikTok, and then some guy will come on who has his page. Like, you'll see it, and I'm like, I'm not knocking it, but it's just like, it sounds crazy. It's like, this is what you got to do, man. A girl leaves you, you get in the gym. You get big, and then you get other girls, then you get a car, and then you fuck a lot of girls, and then you're like, well, okay, but I'm still hurt inside, or there was
that's not going to solve any problems.
But there was one guy, and it sounded crazy, and I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this. He goes, and he's talking to other people, but it's only on him. He goes, I don't cry. No, but you shouldn't cry. Ain't no woman want a man to cry. Once you cry, you weak. And then somebody said something, was like, I don't cry. And I go, that's crazy. Yeah. But it could be true. I mean, there are women out there that probably are like, he's crying. I don't like this.
100%.
But don't want to.
I don't believe the majority of women think that way.
No, I don't think majority, but there definitely are, because there's people. There's always people on the spectrum. Like people gonna think both ways of everything, right?
It's like if it gets. I've heard girls say it too, and guys. Probably if it gets too. If you can't pull yourself up, I think sometimes it's not attractive. Sorry, when it's like you're too anxious, you're too depressive. It's like you can't pull yourself up. Because I've ran into that with girls, and I've had a girl tell me, "This is too taxing." So then you just don't feel. Now you got to find a balance.
But isn't it like? But if it was the other way around, you wouldn't be allowed to tell her that it's too taxing because she's being emotional. It would be.
No, I don't think I would ever do that.
No.
I mean, I would ever do that because.
Why not?
Because I.
But don't you owe it to yourself
to say that it's
that the way she's behaving is taxing for you? Or the way she's feeling is taxing?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to get to a certain push for me because, again, part of me is like, I'm like that. I need to get myself, I might express myself that way. I run the idea over and over. So if someone was doing that, I could have the understanding of like, oh, I do it. I don't want to say taxing is such a discouraging thing
like
to say. It's a burden. It's like, it's taxing.
It bothers me. I hate people don't like taxes.
Like, they hate taxes. I'm dealing with that now, and it's stressful. I hate it, and I just kind of said to myself, "Fuck it, then." Now I'm scared to even. So, what is the level for me?
Like how
far can I go?
How emotional am I allowed to be in the situation? How often?
Yeah,
is the question.
And then it's hard. It's like I've had girls say too, they're like, I don't want to take on my partner's emotions and vulnerabilities as much as I did in the past. Once you say that, that puts me in a what position is that going to put me in?
See, when I hear stuff like that, though, I think that that's a person who hasn't quite rectified or come to terms with their own emotions.
That's what I mean.
But they think that they have no baggage.
They have no.
Everybody has emotional shit they're going to be dealing with. So you're going to sit there and say you can't bring yours, but
it means they've got no room.
Reason why you don't have any. Like we can talk about our
I think
emotional
it's like
baggage together.
Heavy for whatever the case was. I remember it being like I got scared. I was like, well, I'm fucked because I'm so emotional. This is not good.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? Like
well, that's how you know it's not meant to be then.
But it's still funny to be like, no. But then later it was like once it got deeper, I brought that back up, and they're like, well, no, I don't know. I could change. But I'm like, well, I mean,
no.
I don't know. I mean, I already. It's not that it's too late. It's just like, well, already in my head, it's like I don't know now. I don't know what to do, what to bring, and then you start hiding stuff.
Yeah, which is never a good thing. And I think that like if you're about to enter a relationship, or you're in a relationship with someone that you care about, they care about you. If you're going to start it off or implement this restriction of you limit how much emotional output you share. I mean, we're all adults. We've all lived a life to this point. So you've had your ups and downs through your life. The person that you want to spend your time with should be able to take those on. And I'm not saying that you have to dump all your baggage on them, but because that's where therapy comes in. That's where friends come in. Like you don't rely on the one person for everything. Your emotional, your sexual, your life desires, all that stuff. But you should be able to at least talk to your partner when you're having a really shitty day.
I'll give you this example. If they were stuck in the house for 3 months, that could be taxing. I get that. I would even be like, well, I mean, I should go get better help.
Yeah.
But I mean, those cases is fine. In those cases, if my partner's like, I can't do this, I go, yeah, I don't want to do this to you. But I mean, that's like, it doesn't happen all the time. That could be death or whatever, that. Yeah. But I mean, when you hear things like that, especially for me, I run the same thing in my head a bunch of times. So I'm like the worst person to be with then.
You think, okay, maybe I am taxing. Like you don't want it, like.
Well, no, just like if let's say I have an issue or an anxiety, I'll play that in my head for 3 weeks. Most people can just like get past it or whatever. I don't, and so when someone tells me that like they can't take on certain emotions, I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know if
it might not work for you
because I'm the worst. Like in that, I'm like gonna be fixated on it.
Yeah, like music, even me, it's like it runs through my head like constantly. Sometimes I'll even be like, thinking about it again today. Like, you know, I have to catch myself. I was like, oh.
Yeah. That's how I work it out, though. But again, it's like, yeah, I don't know. And then you get, I think when you're younger, you might, maybe, I don't know, you might wait around. Oh, I guess wait around. But as I got older, I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if that's a fit then. I don't know if that's going to help us both.
Yeah.
That's only going to aggravate you maybe, or you know what I'm saying? And then it's going to make me not be really truthful with you if there are restrictions.
Yeah, and you want to be a little more selective, especially as you get older.
But don't you want to, like, I think I had told this to one girl too. It was like she was very like hesitant with her vulnerability. I was like, it's a shame because like if there's restrictions, I mean the beautiful part about it is the more vulnerable we're with each other, the more beauty that's going to come out of it.
Agreed.
So if there's restrictions, I'm not being the best. I'm not giving you 100% by that because I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to piss you off. So what are we doing here? Don't you want like the most honest and beautiful,
authentic version of
with
each other so we can grow each other? Because
the best relationships are built on that.
But I don't knock the person. I don't, because you're right. It's like maybe I don't know what if they're fully developed. I don't know what happened in the past. I have no idea.
But at that point, then that just means that they probably should not be in something serious.
Yeah,
because they're only bound to hurt you and themselves in some way or another.
Yeah,
and then it's just not good for anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was like an hour.
Wow, went by.
Flies.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up?
I mean, I'll tell you this. I didn't really expect to talk about my relationship.
Welcome to the Gents Talk Pod.
I never spoke about it really at all. But it was the most, it was on my mind. So I'd rather have gotten out for, to get an honest, you'll get an honest as opposed to me talking about something else where it's not aligned with what's happening and stuff. But what do I got going?
Yeah, what do you got going on? Firstly, thank you for sharing all that.
Man, this is such a good space and welcoming space to do that.
I appreciate that. That's the goal. Like, we want to just be a safe space. We just talk and just feel comfortable.
It's very beautiful.
Talking about whatever.
I honestly mean it, man. It's very, very beautiful to be able to discuss this. And it's like a lot of, comics that we know in the last few months have taken their lives, man. You know what I mean? And some have died other ways, but it's like, if you, I don't know if they were talking to somebody. So it's like, it's very important to have these kind of platforms to do that, especially men.
Absolutely.
100%.
And then what am I have?
So what do you got going on?
I'll be at the Just for Laughs JFL Vancouver, February 16th, doing my own show. If you go to their website, you can get tickets to go. And then I'll be February 11th at Union Hall in New York, 7:30, doing my own show there. And Sundance, this movie I was in with Daisy Ridley and a bunch of other amazing, beautiful people, called Sometimes I Think About Dying, which was a short that became a full-length feature. That is premiering at Sundance January 19th. And if you go to Sundance, I believe, .org, I think you can actually see it on, like from home, like online, if you don't want to go to the actual event.
Incredible. Dave, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
Courage.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.